Hello, YouTuberverse. StarTalk is back. Sports Edition. Drones. Drone racing. Check it out. Welcome to StarTalk. So this is your touring drone.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I do a lot of work with drones, apart from just racing, and this is my main workhorse because it's nice and safe, it's nice and small, carries
It looks rugged too.
It is until I fly really hard.
Squeezy.
But yeah, absolutely.
Squeezy.
It'll bounce right off the walls or
Yeah.
people or whatever. Yeah,
Bounce off of people. That's good.
we don't want that to happen, but that's why it's there to keep everything nice and safe.
I love the wires just sticking out.
It's functional.
Very non-commercial.
Yeah, it's there to. I want to be able to work on it fast.
So when I put these on, I see out this camera coming out.
Yeah, so there's two cameras on here. This is just a GoPro, but we're looking out of this camera down here. And,
All right.
And that is giving us the same perspective as the drone, as if you were on board it, like Superman or a bird. All right, so you ready to go for a ride?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
So I'm just a passenger.
You are just a passenger.
You're the one in control.
Hopefully. Otherwise, we might end up in a crash. Here we go.
All right. Very cool. Really cool.
So the whole flight that I want to do is I want to start
That's
down.
cool enough. We don't need to do any more. That's cool.
I want to start down here looking out into the planetarium, and then we'll fly into the conference room.
Whoa.
And we'll go look at this equation, which is...
Right. Fourth order Runge-Kutta. Good.
Yep. Have a peek at Albert in the Mets.
Albert Einstein. Very nice.
Back over here.
Wait. You can't ignore Galileo.
Sorry.
Okay.
There's Galileo.
Okay.
And now back up.
Claudius Ptolemy. Yeah.
I think we're blowing some dust off the shells. That's okay. We're doing a little cleaning while we're at it.
Yeah. And there we have
both of these
images of Mars.
And then I'm going to orbit this little telescope on the desk.
Beautiful.
And we'll fly back out in the hall. And then...
Are you coming to my office? This is StarTalk. I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson, your personal astrophysicist, as host. It is a sports edition of StarTalk, where we are going to talk about drone racing. That's even a thing. And I got with me Gary Riley. Gary.
Hey.
You're the sports guy.
I am.
Because you were an ex-pro footballer.
Thank you. Yes.
He still is an ex-pro footballer.
I guess not. You were a present tense ex-football player.
Yes, I am.
Football as in soccer.
As in soccer.
Yes. Chuck.
Hey, man.
Love you, man.
Love you too.
And we slipped some guy. Who's this guy?
Yeah.
This is Nurk.
Nurk.
Yeah.
Nurk.
Paul Nurkala, known only as Nurk. This is the 2018 Drone Racing League champion and a man with his own YouTube channel.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait. First, that's all a thing?
That's all a thing
Yeah,
now.
That's a thing.
Yes.
It is.
You
Did
can be
anybody
a-
tell you like Nurk is a little too close to Narc? I don't know if I would.
No, it feels like nerd to me.
Oh, well, see, but nerd is a good thing now.
Because I don't do drugs the way you do, so it sounds like nerd to me. It sounds like narc to you.
I no longer do
Wow.
drugs.
No longer ex-drug dealer. Okay.
Let's stick with that.
Dealer. Wow, I've graduated.
Well, you're so fluent in metric. I thought.
Aren't you glad you came?
Absolutely.
Good.
Nerd.
All right, so tell me about your guest here. What do you got?
All right, so Paul is one of these guys that has a passion, and his passion has brought itself into drone flying. Now it's a sort of split off of the esports universe, which we've already dipped our toes into
Yeah.
in one of our shows before with Playing with
Absolutely.
Science.
We had
and,
some really great
and
esports
you realize
athletes.
that these aren't guys who just sat on a sofa with a control panel surrounded by cans of Red Bull. Some of these guys are actual athletes. And when you get to fly one of these things, you realize they're going at 90 and probably more than that miles per hour. They're racing on 3D courses. They're not racing against the clock. They're racing against other pilots.
Yeah. And the clock.
Well, I mean, if they're in the front, they can strategize just like you would do in a Formula One race.
Absolutely.
So there's all sorts of things. So this guy actually now becomes an athlete, becomes a racer. And we like the idea of the fact there's so much tech involved in what he does. It's another way to explore the world of science and sports.
Well, I got to tell you this. So I know about your world, Paul, or Nurk. Which one is it?
Both are fine.
Okay. All right. So I used to come home from doing comedy. ESPN used to have these races on, actual drone races. They would be inside of like a warehouse with a set. There were like certain hazards that you had to navigate. They were racing against you. And, I couldn't sleep and I'm watching it. And I got to tell you, it's super hype. You get sucked in. Yeah. And I realized I should not come home and watch this crap and then try to go to sleep because you'd be so adrenaline filled from watching it, you would have trouble sleeping afterwards. So how is it racing?
Yeah. Well, so there's a temptation when you're looking at something like this, like a robotic sport, as like you're saying, like it's just a bunch of guys that sit around and drink Red Bull. Like I don't particularly look like an athlete. I know. I recognize that.
Okay, I didn't want to be the one to tell you.
But
Break the news
Oh,
to
thank
him.
God I don't have to break the news to you.
all right, that's it. But I look at it like a precision sport. So you look at precision sports, that's racing, that's bowling, that's archery, that's Olympic level sports are these things where it's about repeatability.
Did you have bowling in the same sentence as Olympic level?
Yeah.
Did he put those?
I meant archery as the Olympic
fine.
level
Okay.
thing, but it's all about repeatability. It's all about measuring what you can do to do better. It's about gathering, analyzing how your performance was so that you can take it out and do it the next time. And so, we're athletes of the mind as much as anything else, and that's allowing us to compete at the highest level, building 3D courses in some of the coolest places in the world.
Absolutely. And when you say of the mind, it's definitely you got to be pretty mentally tough to navigate these things and races at
But just
the
to be
same
clear,
time.
when you say racing, I'm thinking who can get from A to B the fastest. But that's not what's going on here.
It's more like A to B to C to D to.
So it's a navigational task.
Yes.
More than it is how fast can you go. You're not like Usain Bolt here.
Right.
You're just
Right.
you are going around obstacles, I guess, and this sort of thing. Okay.
Yeah, and it's in the drone racing league, especially is spec racing. So we're all flying the exact same drones. So
Right.
we've got a smorgasbord of drones here in front of us, but when we are at a race, the DRL brings 600 identical drones.
So it's NASCAR tries to be something like that. There's
Exactly.
a lot of specs that they satisfy, including right on down to the weight of the car.
But this
itself.
is first person viewing,
Yep.
which means you have sat there with a visor, with goggles, with a headset, and there's broadcast quality cameras attached to your drones.
Yep.
So you're not flying it from stood somewhere here watching it with your
Watching
eyesight.
it.
Yeah, you're doing it
Mhm.
like that, so you're really involved.
So when you guys are wearing...
Chuck, did he give you permission to pick that up off the table?
Nope.
Please do.
No, he did not. But this is so these look like VR headsets.
Yep.
And when you are looking through the VR headset, you're what, tethered to the camera on the drone?
Yeah, so we see as if we're on board the drone. So like when you're flying it, when you're riding along, you feel like you're a bird or Superman.
Like you're just right there, like you're there,
Right.
Yeah.
hang gliding off the bottom, inside the drone.
Yeah.
Right.
So like for example, when I tell people that when I'm flying, like it feels like an out of body experience. Right?
Can I pick this
Yeah,
up?
please, absolutely. Like there's moments I've had and I still have where I'm flying around outside getting some practice in, and I see somebody sitting in the corner. I'm like, who's that? Oh, that's me. You know, I'm just like, because I forget that I'm not on board the drone.
Oh, so you have an out of body experience.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's really cool, man.
So I see two cameras. There's like a simple GoPro
Yep.
up here, and then there's another lens down here.
Yeah.
So which one are you?
So I'm the one on the bottom.
This
the
one here.
lower lens. That transmits the information at a much lower response rate. So there's only like 25 milliseconds of delay between that camera and what I see.
Milliseconds, thousandth of a second.
Yeah, and it's
Okay.
important to have that as low as possible.
Right. Yeah.
So that you
want to be able to respond to whatever you're
respond.
seeing.
Right.
Right.
See, then the
Yes.
angle of the camera is important
I'm
when
going
you're
to
racing.
ask you that. So,
All right,
So if this
easy.
is hanging like this, then the fan blades will just keep it buoyant. But you want
Yes.
to move forward, you're going to have to tilt that.
Yep.
So that it pulls it forward.
Yep.
But now you're looking down at the ground.
Correct. So we tilt the camera and leave it tilted at the beginning to about 45, 50 degrees. So that when we're flying straight and level, according to what we're seeing, it's really tilted 50 degrees forward.
To go forward.
And that's what allows us to go 100 miles an hour.
Right. Wow.
How-
Is that the
wait,
actual
what?
speed?
Yeah, so these drones can top out around 100, 120. For the show, they top out about 80, and they go 0 to 60 in less than a second.
So how much do these
Wait,
cost?
wait, Chuck.
0 to
go
60 in less than a second.
Wow. That's pretty wild.
Wait.
Yeah.
Does the FAA know about this?
That part they're not worried about.
Okay.
But we fly inside. We
Yeah.
fly with all of the licensure and stuff that we need. Absolutely.
Okay.
So now,
But
when
if you ever go outside, then you can't tell the FAA.
Then we stop at 99.
Stop. Okay.
Oh, why? Is there a regulation about 100 miles?
There is.
Oh.
Yeah.
And what would that regulation be so that we can make sure that no one ever breaks it?
He never flies higher than 100 miles.
No,
Right.
never.
Okay.
No.
So now, when you guys are flying, because I've seen these, man, sometimes you hit things, and these drones, they are no more.
There are a lot of pieces.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, how much do these things cost? Because then, and
This looks very homespun.
are they yours?
Yeah.
Because in the next race, the guy who crashed, he's still back in the race. I mean, they still have a drone there.
So there's a little give and take there. So when we're flying for the league brings all of the drones for us. They bring 600 identical to each race, and they say go as fast as you want. You know, if you crash it, no hard feelings. That being said, you know, I know all the tech guys, the guys that build all the drones, like they're the heroes of the show. They're my favorite people, but I don't want to crash too many of them because I don't want them to be like after the race, like, what are you doing, man?
But
Yeah,
you
but
could,
if you crash, you're allowed to just grab another one. Is
Exactly.
that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
but you could build this yourself.
Absolutely. So the drone that we've got here, I have built myself with individual components set aside. That one's called the Shen Drone Squirt. It's just a tiny little, it's a squirt. It's a tiny little guy, and we use it to film and fly inside. It's a little bit slower, but it's very safe and protected.
How important is
So it's
it for
very
you?
squishy,
Yep.
A squishy
Ducts.
around ducts.
Ducts.
Yes, okay.
How important is it for you as a racer to be able to build and understand every single part of your drone? Thank you.
Question.
Being able to build if you don't know how to assemble the drone, every time you crash, every time you break something, you're gonna have to
Go to
get a
somebody.
whole new one or go to someone else. You know, so if you have learned how to build it from the ground up, when something fails, you can swap it yourself in just a couple minutes. So when I'm out in the
No, but okay, fine.
you can,
I get that if it breaks. But if
Yeah.
it's not broken and you're
Yep.
racing,
Yep.
does your knowledge of every single thing about that inform your strategic
absolutely.
actions?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can pick and choose different kinds of components to suit different needs, right? Do I want it to be super durable? Do I want it to be extremely fragile but extremely fast? Do I want to find some kind of balance? And that informs the kinds of decisions that I make when I'm on the workbench assembling the drone.
So you've got 3 blades in your propellers.
Yep.
But you
I
can
mean,
vary
it's a 3.
that 3 props.
A tri-blade prop.
Tri-blade,
Yeah.
right. So you can go from 2 to 3 to 4,
To 4 to 5 to 6.
and it does what? Different in terms of
Yeah.
what you're doing here.
So we like to
So
kind
in
of
other words, what's the advantage? Because you see
Yeah.
some airplanes only have 2 propellers,
Yeah.
right? And you
Right.
spin them, and then
Yeah.
3, 4. Why have one number of propellers relative to another?
So changing out different kinds of propellers, adding or removing blades allows you to change depending on whether you want higher performance, higher speed, higher efficiency. You kind of pick and choose which of those you want and use that to decide what kind of.
So in general, the more blades, the The what?
The better maneuverability.
But it weighs more.
It weighs more, and the motors are working harder to spin the prop, so you have a little bit less efficiency. There's a little bit more surface area, so it's a little bit less top speed. But if you go all the way down to like a single blade prop, where like it's like counterbalanced weights and stuff, it starts to get much more efficient.
So if they are determining that each drone is going to be identical, when you're practicing, do you try to match that, or is there something that you can do that gives you an advantage when practicing, like swinging a heavier bat in practice and then going to a lighter bat in the game because you can get a faster whip around?
Yeah, so that's exactly right on the money. So when we're practicing, DRL sends us enough drones to get ready for the next race and all the parts that we need, because we'll go and fix them. And then actually a lot of people will actually strap 2 batteries to it and only leave 1 plugged in, so that it is a little bit heavier. It's a little bit more doggy, so that you can kind of refine your racing line.
Interesting.
So Chuck, why are you so drone fluent?
What's that?
Why?
I'm drone curious. What can I say? I'm just drone curious. Oh dear. No, I mean, first of all, if you've ever seen it, when drones first came out years ago, oh God, why am I even telling this? I'm opening myself up for more abuse. Okay, so when drones first came out years ago, I tried flying drones, and it is very difficult. I'm not talking about.
You don't have the first time I saw a drone come at my.
Okay. You have a drone baseball bat? You have a dedicated bat for drones?
Dedicated for drones.
You got notches on the back.
My dedicated drone bat.
Just
right.
Okay.
So the fun of flying a drone is.
I wouldn't do it to your drone. Of course.
You tried to earlier.
But the fun of flying a drone is not like what you would think, which is, just lift off, forward, back. I mean, okay, that's going to get boring really, really quick. So the fun of flying the drone is finding something that you can maneuver. It's like going around stuff and through stuff and over and under, and that's when it becomes very difficult.
But I would add, there are shots that you never would have gotten cinematically.
Right.
So, for example, when we filmed Cosmos, we went to the largest telescope in the world, which is a non-steering telescope in a crater in the ground in China.
Sweet.
Okay. And we brought drones, and because it's just too big to get. If you're up upon it, you can't see it. You can't.
Right.
It's too big. Right. You can't grasp it. Right. So we had a drone, and it just lifted straight up, and I saw the monitor. It was like, whoa. Right. That was a money shot right there. So so I think it's not just the maneuverability; it's point of view.
Right. Yeah. And for me, like, that's one of the things that I like the most about it is it offers not only a unique perspective on like what's around you, but one of the things that's really cool about drones and the hobby and the passion of drones is that you all have had this shared like collection of experiences. So I've traveled to China, to Taiwan, to Germany, and gone and flown with people, and we don't have to share a language to share a language.
Right.
And so not only does it offer a new perspective on the world, but also on people. And that's one of the things I like the most about
So
it.
do you make money by doing drone shots for people?
Well, let me ask you. Let's start that a little earlier, okay?
Okay.
So your parents did what?
Both my parents are professors.
Okay, and they have a son who is playing with toys.
Yes.
For a living. They must be proud. They must be very, very proud.
So how did that go?
You know what?
How did that go?
Let me put it this way. My parents have always been really supportive of whatever I do, but I got married in right at the start of my drone interest. And I think there was a point, like maybe 2 years in, where my in-laws were like,
What
did we say? Yes. This guy, he's just sitting at home
to a
playing
woman
with
who's
his
fully employed.
Yeah, my
fully
wife's
employed,
a nurse. She's incredible.
Fully employed.
She's probably working right now. I'm hanging out with you guys.
Okay.
So the Drone Racing League is a professional
That's what I'm getting
league.
at. So what kept you at it? Was it one day I'm going to get rich doing this?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So you did it because it was fun, and then you happened to make money.
Yes, absolutely.
Initially. And so now it is.
Now it's taking you all over the world, and you're racing on NBC.
Yeah.
And it's kind of working out for you.
It is absolutely working.
So take that, in-laws.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Put that in your drone and
finally
fly
gotten over the initial fear of like he's just unemployed playing with his toys in the corner.
Yeah. Only slightly better than living in his parents' basement. Right.
So where are we going now? We've got piloted drones, but we're also
Are these
in
going into the Olympics?
I hope so. I think that would be incredible. But again, it's that precision sport. It's all about, mental fortitude.
So at the moment, we've got piloted drones, but we are adventuring into the world of autonomous drones.
Yes.
And at the moment, they don't stand a chance against a human pilot.
No.
What? Oh, at the moment.
At the moment.
Only at the moment.
For now.
That's
I know me some future where that's going, and you ain't.
yeah.
Excuse me.
I for
knew you'd have
one,
a thought.
welcome our robot overlords.
Yes. You'll succumb like the rest of us
So
to our AI overlords.
You're in there pushing triple digits, and at the moment,
Triple digit speeds.
yeah,
Yes.
in the moment, the winner of the autonomous drone competition, which is Alpha Pilot,
Yep.
was at 5.6 miles per hour
Yep.
navigating a course.
Yep.
So that's a lot of catch up.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was
okay.
actually
it's
there
just,
for
it's
that
the same
race.
as it's the same as driverless cars, right? I mean, that's the same. The
They're en
deal is,
route.
yeah, you're en route, but
Yeah.
the truth is, I mean, it's not to the point where a car can actually be a human being behind the wheel.
But
Not yet.
Not yet.
Then that's what the Alpha Pilot program, which is a partnership between the Drone Racing League and Lockheed Martin, is creating, the framework for being able to create autonomy.
All right, now that's
in
some
drones.
scary crap right there. Okay,
Oh, it gets
Lockheed
even
Martin
better.
has the F-35.
that's what I'm saying.
yes, yes.
Right, so it gets even better because one of the sponsors for the Drone Racing League is the U.S. Air Force.
That makes sense.
Isn't it just?
They're just looking for pilots.
Duh.
That's all.
They're
These
for
are-
drone pilots.
This is the future of the. Listen,
drone-
this is the future of
Yeah.
all warfare.
Wait, do you have like two huge thumbs or something? Like,
Let's
what do
About normal.
Yeah,
It's
so
the only fit part of my body. Right?
you-
Well, and something that I wanted to go back to,
Yeah.
that we talked about at the beginning, was that we mentioned esports, and
Yeah, yeah.
we're talking about how esports are, informing modern day performance in athletes. And one of the ways to become part of the Drone Racing League is to go through an online tournament. And so somebody can just sit down at their computer, play a simulator that's a one-to-one representation of what it's like to fly our drones, and become a member of the show on NBC.
Well, wait. So,
Oh, so that's
because
a
it's
big
no different.
incentive. It's a big incentive to win the esports category, to actually come in and be a racer with Nurk.
Okay. Well, all right. So
And that tournament is happening right now.
let me ask a heretical question.
Go ahead.
If the simulation qualifies you to do it for real, why do you need the real thing at all?
Right. Why not just create everything inside a simulation? Because you can clearly create more interesting, more challenging,
more dynamic,
and more
course-
dynamic situations.
course obstacles.
Right.
But you don't get the visceralness of being in person to watch the drones come by, because when they're
You're
screaming
not watching
by,
the drones. You have the headset on.
I'm not, but the audience is, the people that come to watch
Oh, you mean
and
it
to
doesn't become a
experience.
spectator sport?
Exactly.
Oh, because we
okay.
can watch the
We
drones.
can watch
right.
the-
We
right.
want
Yeah.
people to see the technology
Okay,
evolve.
so what you
and-
do is you simulate the people as well.
Okay.
And then in their own mind, they are people watching
Yep.
moving drones in the simulation itself.
But they get the first-person view, don't they? The spectators with the
No,
with the headwear.
They can.
they
Yeah.
can.
But we put everything up on
Yeah, it's on
jumbotrons,
a
and you
big
can
screen.
see
They can
everything.
choose.
Like
They
it's,
choose. Yeah.
So now, what is more difficult? Because when you're flying a drone, and I'm holding the controller in my hand right now, and so when you're flying a drone and you have the controller and you're looking at the drone, that is completely different for your brain when you are looking
Or the
at a
drone.
first-person representation of the drone itself.
Yeah.
So what's more difficult?
It depends on who you are. So some people that, for example, people that start with video games, that have a lot of video game experience, tend to prefer to be in the goggles. Some people prefer line of sight. But for me, I think the most difficult part of either is maintaining your nerves, right? Because all of your controls go through these tiny little sticks that
right.
move like 2 inches in each direction. And if you have like a little bit of a nervous shake or something like that, the quad is going,
Right.
responding to you. So staying calm is the most important part.
So he has nerves of steel.
Nerves of steel. The hands of a surgeon.
Except he's flying a drone. He could be carrying somebody's
I could
ass.
probably make more money as a surgeon.
So, has anyone considered some variant on Quidditch, like drone Quidditch?
Absolutely.
Like, because the bird could then be just some
Right, the snitch.
the snitch. Excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So drone racing is such a young thing that we're starting to figure out new ways to do it. So whether that's just heads up racing where it's first to the finish gate, we're starting to do like team races where it's marathons. Like I've competed in a race that lasted 12 hours on purpose. Like it was the most laps in 12 hours and stuff like that. And we're starting to see more and
I got
more
one.
adaptions.
You can have ultimate frisbee, and the frisbee is a drone.
Yep.
So I can throw it in a certain way. Then mid course, it just takes off.
Wow.
right? So that it's non.
I like your Harry Potter idea better.
Okay. I don't know. We're just helping out here. I don't know. So we got to land this plane, land this drone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yay.
So any final thoughts you want to offer? Tell parents who have kids who
Start
still-
playing video games now. It's the future. No, it's drones are such an awesome hobby sport. Both whichever way you want to look at it, it's I've learned how to solder, how to troubleshoot, I've refined my Google foo, my ability to figure things out, and I think that everybody should have at one point tried to fly, tried to build, and gotten into that technology.
How many hours of practice will it take for somebody to be proficient enough to be a professional drone racer?
During the season, I practice 10 hours a day.
Oh,
I go to the field at 10 a.m. and I'm there until 10 p.m. And
So in 3 years, you've done your 10,000 hours,
hopefully.
and
now you're
but
a
in
master.
AI will take how long? Overnight?
oh yeah, overnight. Yeah. Well, wait, did I do my math right? If it's 10 hours a day, that's
365.
300 hours a year.
Right.
So that's. Did I do that right?
No, that's not 3 years.
You're the scientist. You gotta ask us.
Yeah, I did it right.
Yeah.
Okay, we have confirmation.
Yes, that was Google's in the room.
I know
No.
it is. It's 10 hours a day. In a year is 3,000 hours.
Right.
Times 3 years, you get the 10,000.
10,000
Okay.
hours.
Yeah.
Not
So
bad.
you did your 10,000 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be doing the 10 hours a day for about a month at a time, rather than because I gotta make some money once in a while and
Yeah.
all those kinds of things. So
We got to land this plane.
All right.
Yeah,
with
we
this
go.
drone.
Take us out.
All right. So rule number 1, keep your fingers out of the blades. Lesson Nurk taught me, because otherwise it's not good. Right. So Paul Nakala, Drone Racing League champion of 2018, and no doubt championships to come. So that's it for our point for StarTalk Sports Edition, drone racing.
Thanks, Nurk.
With Paul, with Chuck, and him.
We got to take a break, but when we come back, more on all the things you can do with a drone on StarTalk. Welcome back to StarTalk Sports Edition. Today we're focusing on the Droniverse.
Ooh,
Did we
yes.
just
I like
invent
that.
we- we-
You
we-
did
we-
just make that up.
we-
The
The
Droniverse.
Droniverse.
It's ours.
It's ours. We own it. We've talked about racing them. That's understandable.
Of
Yeah.
Okay, put that on the speed channel. But now it's time to look into the technology that's being developed outside of esports.
Yeah.
And to do that, we've got our next guest, Justin Pierce. I think I pronounced that name right.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin, we got you on video call. Did I say
we can hear you.
good?
Daniel.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did.
Excellent. So you are chief engineer at In Situ Inc., and it's a wholly owned subsidiary of Boeing Defense, Space, and Security.
Oh, so you guys are doing okay.
Sounds important.
Sounds important.
That's the word I thought. Important.
And what is this? There's an RQ-21 unmanned air vehicle, chief engineer at In Situ for that vehicle. Is that correct?
That's right. That's correct. on
that's
that
correct.
Type model series.
Okay, so what are all the specs of the RQ-21, even the classified specs? What are they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll start with those first. The RQ-21A is considered a Group 3 unmanned aircraft system or drone. For scale, that's about 16-foot wingspan, 10 feet long, 135 pounds when it takes off.
Wait, so the
By
group is the group a size reference?
Yeah, that's correct.
Mhm.
There's group sizes that go from what you would expect on a low end, like a quad-copter, all the way up to a large Group 5 platform, like
Sounds like an
Reaper
underfed
or,
basketball star.
Yeah, Group 5 is normally my boarding position.
Group 5 on an airplane. That's under the wing. They strap you on.
There you go. That's where they put
Hold
me.
on tight.
Yes, you're in cargo. What are you doing in this line?
So what's it being developed for?
Yes.
Yeah, so RQ-21 is a program of record. It's actually through development and fielded with the United States Marine Corps and United States Navy. Today, it does intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, and a number of important missions for our troops.
Oh, okay. And so how does it differ? I mean, other than, of course, it has security elements. When the public thinks of drones, I think we think of the annoying ones that are buzzing around the park, and then we think of the military ones that get deployed in Iraq or Afghanistan. And yours is somewhere in between those?
That's correct. Yeah, it's size, scale, endurance. So what we offer is a runway independent aircraft that's launched from a catapult and recovers on a vertically attached rope by its wing. It's designed for mobility and transportability. Some of the differences are special payloads that you'll see from a military perspective, but also encryption and different types of cameras we put on there to be able to see at night, thermal, EO telescopes, just a little more high performance than you would have in that lower end commercial drone you would expect, like a quadcopter, but not as large as, say, a Predator.
And it's not.
So-
And I got one last question. I'm going to hand off to these guys here. And I assume it's not autonomous. There's someone at the joystick.
That is correct. There is, it flies autonomously, but there is somebody at a operator workstation that is directing the behaviors of that aircraft, taking care of it if there's emergencies, and driving the primary payload, which is a electro-optical sensor that is on the front of the aircraft.
Oh, so it's basically a spy. It's a spy drone.
Mhm.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So they prefer reconnaissance.
Okay.
Recon.
So, okay, we've got this amazing piece of machinery, but what hurdles have we had to clear to get it from like a quadcopter to where you are and where you want it to actually go? Not literally speaking, but in development.
Yeah, I think, one of the major areas that we focus on is reliability, as these are used with our warfighters. We want them to be reliable, always airborne, and providing eyes in the skies. Obviously, over the years, we've moved. In situ has a family of unmanned aircraft systems or drones that it sells. So this is our largest version of aircraft, with the smaller one being 8 feet across. So how do you increase that size but still retain the way that it recovers? Because it's actually recovered on its wingtip, so that's a high energy recovery.
Right.
Those have been some technical challenges that we've had to face.
Oh, so structurally, it has to stay in one piece as the wing gets captured by your.
That's exactly
Yes.
right.
Whoa.
So let me ask you, with respect to that,
Uh-huh.
it's kind of like an aircraft carrier, the way it's made for mobility, it's made for being able to take off and land on the spot. But it's really big. It's huge.
Yeah.
So if it's made for mobility, does it collapse? Is it buildable on site? I mean, I can see with the capture system, if you're in rocky terrain and you want to do some recon, it makes sense, but this thing is huge.
Yeah, depending on the model of aircraft that we sell, we have a line of sight and a beyond line of sight capability. So you'll typically do launch and recovery in one area where you can have a little more room to set up, probably not near a runway. And the aircraft itself actually collapses and the wings come off in a modular fashion. The nose comes off. It all breaks down into very small cases that are packed out.
Okay.
But that takes a human element. It can't just it's a fixed wing.
That's the next model. It's the
Yeah.
Transformer version.
There you go.
That's right.
Oh, please make that sound. Just build that soundtrack into the next drone. Just for
Just
us.
whatever you do, your next drone, no matter what it does, should go. Okay.
Maybe.
I'm sorry. Justin's looking at us like, what the hell did I get myself into?
How soon can I go home?
Oh, yeah. When will he release me? What's the range on this?
So typically advertised as 50 nautical miles is how far we can fly.
Away, and then it can still come back.
And then it can come back, always in positive control by the operator, equipped with a different nose module or front of the aircraft. We can actually extend that 200, 300 nautical miles with our extended range platform.
Because it's lighter in that extended range, or you get more fuel?
We use a different data link. Instead of using a line of sight radio, we actually talk to space over satellite communication.
And that makes it lighter.
It doesn't necessarily make it lighter, but it allows us to not have to have line of sight between the operator and the
Right.
airplane.
Also, your
So now-
range is a line of sight problem,
That's correct.
not
Yeah,
how
there's-
far it can
Not
fly.
right.
Yeah, these
So
aircraft
even when
can
you're
fly
flying-
16, 24 hours depending on them.
Right. So even when you're flying 50 nautical miles, you could fly 300. It's just that for those
won't be able to talk to
purposes,
it.
you can't talk to it, so you need to just keep it to that 50
That's
mile
exactly
radius.
right.
That is
Hence
amazing.
going to space.
Okay.
It's a link.
So the quadcopter ones that we see kids playing with, those obviously use rechargeable batteries. At what point is the transition between batteries and actual fuel that is driving the energy of the craft?
That's an interesting question. I think it happens when we talk about groups or sizes. Typically, when you get to the 30 or 40-pound aircraft, you're looking at more energy density that you're getting from a fuel like gas or jet fuel.
Yeah.
And
Gas,
that's
you mean
typically the
gasoline.
transition point you'll see. But there are larger aircraft that fly hydrogen fuel cells and other propulsion sources that are different.
Regardless, if above a certain size, the battery's not going to work for you.
That's exactly right.
Right.
Okay, we're all considering electric vehicles in terms of cars and trucks and buses. Is that a viable source of power for a drone, or is the battery weight just another hurdle that you won't be able to overcome for the moment?
Yeah, it really is a trade-off. Typically with drones, the largest trade-off we're making is endurance and payload mass. So when I choose to equip myself with batteries so that I don't have to manage fuel, I'm typically going to get lower endurance. Some customers want that. They want to fly shorter sorties or shorter missions. And so an all-electric aircraft can go a few hours, and that may be sufficient for them. Our customers have preferred persistent surveillance, and so we typically don't use that because it's not as efficient.
Our customers, the U.S. military.
Yeah, right. Well, speaking of that, persistent surveillance, so some police departments are now using drones, such as yours. They keep them in the air pretty much all the time. When a crime happens, the drone goes to the crime, to the place, and then what they're able to do is follow the action. So instead of a high-speed trace, whatever, they just basically, mark a car and they're like, all right, we got it. Now we're going to follow and see where it goes. What other applications? And one, what kind of drone is that? Is it this kind of drone? Two, what other applications do you have for this type of drone outside of the military that you can't talk about?
So yeah, typically you're going to have airspace. You're going to have airspace considerations for where you fly those type of drones. So we're typically seeing with police forces in congested urban areas, it's going to be a quad-copter, something of that size. Typically not one of our aircraft today, but depending on FAA regulations, you can see us transitioning in the long term away from that. Some of the more interesting applications that we have are around infrastructure inspection, so railroad or pipeline monitoring that's typically staffed by somebody in a helicopter.
Brilliant.
And we like the idea of being able to extend the reach of our platforms and encourage basically pulling people out of jobs that require them to fly around. There's no requirement for the aircraft to come back. So infrastructure inspection, high resolution mapping, disaster relief and search and rescue. So we've participated in several disaster relief efforts. And then one of the more interesting ones we had locally was wildfire support. So helping firefighters understand where the fire line is, how it's changing overnight, because they can't go and fight wildfires in the dead of night. So we're there to be able to provide overwatch for them.
So do you and your staff, when no one is looking, do you race your drones?
That's a yes.
Guilty.
That was amazing. Oh my God! I wish. And for those of you just listening, Justin got a look on his face like, "Oh man, why'd you have to ask me that?"
No, we typically have to have vertical and horizontal separation. There's no knife edge passes.
Yeah, he's lying right there.
By the way,
exactly.
He imitated the knife edge pass with his hand.
Yeah.
So, okay, Justin, if you've got that range of capacity in terms of infrastructure, search and rescue, and your agriculture, you must have an array of optics because you're using different parts of the spectrum to analyze what you're seeing underneath.
That's exactly right. So if I'm doing a search and rescue operation, I may want to equip, or I'm looking for a boat that's lost in the sea, I may want to use a payload like VIDAR, which is visual detection and ranging, that constantly searches and gives an operator cues when it finds something that otherwise you wouldn't discern in water. And then I can put another camera onto that potential target and or point of interest and see what's there. For agricultural monitoring, you're looking at hyperspectral, so operating in different bands to be able to create a picture of how those crops are performing. And
just to be
very
clear,
different sensors.
With, as I understand it, hyperspectral imaging can give you early leads on the need for irrigation, and the like.
More water, less water.
Can it bring soil analysis?
You don't ever want to give too much water because you're wasting it and you don't want it. Right.
Absolutely.
Does it give you soil analysis? Can you analyze soil from an airborne position?
So you're not unlike astronomy, you're inferring what's occurring due to the spectrum that's observed in the soil. You're not obviously directly monitoring it, but you're observing secondary effects that give you an indication that there may be something you need to do with your crop when you look over a large area.
All right, that's
Sweet.
pretty cool.
So, couple other things. Are these built for speed at all or not?
So, as an example, our dash speed is on the order of 100 knots. So we're not talking Mach 1, but
Gotcha.
obviously there are larger aircraft that are built for that, and they use different propulsion systems.
All right. So this is up Mach. So 100 knots. You're saying. How high does it fly? When you're
It could fly up to 15,000 feet, depending on avoiding acoustic detectability. When we consider, obviously, what we do for our defense customers, we typically fly anywhere from 3,000 to 8,000 feet, but it can go as high as 15 or more.
Okay. So what's to stop me from watching you come in and I'll pull out my shotgun and just take you out of the sky? If you are purely recon and you have no armament, no offensive or defensive measures, and I don't like you, I'm just going to shoot you out of the sky. This is America,
Right.
Jack.
So the way we avoid that, obviously there's what we call the launch and recovery operation, or takeoff and landing in a conventional aircraft. Those situations definitely have to have perimeter and base monitoring.
You're susceptible there. Okay.
And countermeasures. But when we're over a target, we mitigate that by the size of the airplane is relatively small. The color is typically gray. The engine is relatively quiet compared to what I can see at a given standoff distance. That's why we equip them with telescopes, so we can stay far enough away but still see who is there. For some of the other applications, mitigating that isn't something we worry about. We can fly as close as we need to see as well as we want to.
So you're talking about piloted, we'll call them drones, you call them unmanned craft. Where do we go with AI? Because when we spoke to our drone racer, Nurk, Paul Nakala, the whole thing was a lot of prize money was put up by Lockheed Martin, $1 million to be able to win an annual event. And the average speed of these racing drones is about 5.5 miles per hour, because they can't process the optic, the visuals. Now, how far are we from cracking that? Because that's ridiculous. If all of a sudden you've got AI able to process like a human eye with that speed, and then, those speeds you were talking about, then they really do max out.
One of the evolutions of the industry we're currently in directly is attributed to what I would say closely to Moore's law and the ability to do advanced processing in smaller and smaller areas. So to do those very complicated high-speed processing, you need a lot of horsepower in your electronics. And we're finding in some of the payloads, including VIDAR I just mentioned, you can do quite a bit there. I wouldn't know enough to comment directly on drone racing, but if there are projects like Project Maven in the DoD that are targeted at artificial intelligence, and in general, this is all about reducing how much the human has to work, right? So today, I have an operator and one aircraft. In the future, I think you're going to have an operator and many aircraft, and you're going to have aircraft doing missions that the operator doesn't have to have any concept of what's going on unless there's an exception, unless there's a problem.
The AI is doing what it's supposed to.
It is doing what it's supposed to.
Also, too, I just had a thought, and maybe it makes sense or maybe it doesn't. The idea behind the AI, you could treat it like driverless cars, where the car itself, or in your case, the unmanned drone, would be receiving the information, not actually doing the calculation. So the calculation is done on a base somewhere, and if you have 5G, that type of transmission technology, you're just really sending it split-second decisions as it's receiving it. So it doesn't really have to do the thinking. There's a brain someplace else. Does that make sense, or am I just losing my freaking mind?
No, it makes sense. Today, even when you asked before, is there a person in the loop? Yes, to monitor what the aircraft's doing, but when we tie algorithms with sensors and have autonomous autopilots that are moving the aircraft around, you can begin to see that the aircraft can do the entire mission with a person largely not in the loop. So we do that today. That's where the market has gone.
Actually, we do that on the planes that we fly on, and we don't know that we're doing it because half the
Autopilot.
time that we're on a plane, those guys are in the front smoking weed and chilling. Because
What airline are you
it's
on?
called
What airline?
autopilot. It's called autopilot.
No, it's a new airline called Get High with Us.
Yeah. High flyers.
High flyers.
CBD air. CBD air.
Well, Justin, one last thing. We're all, I think, comfortable with getting on these trams at airports. And we all know there's no one conducting those trains, right? They go from one terminal to another.
Yeah.
And that doesn't freak anybody out.
Okay, you just freaked me out. I didn't know that.
Look around
Okay.
the front next time,
No, I
Chuck.
am never getting on a tram again. Thanks.
So to me, that's the beginning of our comfort level of what we will entrust to pilot that is autonomously run. So how soon do you think we would have pilotless airplanes? Will that have to wait until long after we have pilotless cars, do you think?
I think obviously that driverless vehicles are going to pave the way for pilotless passenger aircraft. What's going to have to happen is airspace deconfliction. There's going to have to be an ability to sense and avoid other people that are flying around so that it can make decisions. So that's more sensors. But I don't think the leap is that great from driverless cars to passenger aircraft. It all comes down to safety. And there's a ton of people that are in this space and leaning forward. I initially expect that it'll be passenger aircraft that are optionally piloted. So similar to you would see today with so-called driverless vehicles, somebody has their hand on the steering wheel. And once
Even if they're asleep,
flying public
their hand is on the steering wheel.
yeah, the videos of people driving that are asleep, I don't think that's going to work for optionally piloted aircraft. But I think as we gain confidence and trust, as you mentioned, Neil, the flying public will begin to entrust themselves with that technology.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right, Justin. Well, thanks for being with us on StarTalk.
Thanks.
All right. So when we come back, we'll finish out our final segment with StarTalk Sports Edition. We're back. StarTalk Sports Edition. We're going to land this plane somehow.
You mean this drone?
This drone.
Okay, so we've got Paul Nurkler, the Nurk, the drone racer.
The drone racer.
All right, we've got Justin Peirce, who's our drone engineer.
Peirce, spelled Pierce.
It is, but
Yeah.
I think it's an Irish Peirce.
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 Oh,
So
yeah.
I think there's
How he said that. He said that good.
Yeah,
That was a good brogue
It
right
was
there.
good.
So I look at the drone racing and I look at who their involvement is. It's NBC as a media partner. You've got sponsorship from Lockheed Martin and the good old US Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a recruitment drive, a sponsorship, and a platform. I think what we've got here is a sport that might be just beginning, and I won't even go with the takeoff pun, beginning to grow itself into some stature. Did you get a buzz out of it?
Because of that 360 support from three very different branches of what we know has the power and the resources to keep something buoyant.
Right. Well, the other thing, too, and we didn't even touch upon this, though, and right now it's being kind of worked out, and that is airspace conflicts so that delivery drones.
You're thinking pizzas, aren't you?
Well, I in a way I am, because guess what? That's going to be, I'm
Yeah,
hungry.
yeah.
But that's going to be like probably the most drone traffic that we will see in our society, because think of the number of trucks that it will cut down on when you drop off. There'll still be trucks, but they'll just make a drop at a place, and then the drone will do the delivery because it'll have a pre-programmed route, just like the truck guy does.
The truck goes to one hub.
Hub.
And then the drones come back and
then
forth
the
to the
drones
hub.
come back and forth
Basically,
to the hub.
you're going to create a beehive with the drones, and they're just going to.
A drone hive.
A drone hive.
Well, I hoped you'd get this.
Let's just
Enough.
hope they don't figure out how to make a queen.
Oh, snap.
And then the drones take over. The drones achieve consciousness.
Rise
and
of
they
the machines.
The rise of the drones.
Rise of the
and
drones.
then they learn how to reproduce, and there's the queen. And
So therefore, we're looking to continue it. the size of the drone over built-up urban spaces.
Right.
Because
That's going to matter.
That is
Yeah.
going to matter. But that's the whole. But listen, right now in every single city, especially larger cities, there's a big fight as to what is the bandwidth of space or airspace that you get, and how big can your drone be? Because that's going to determine how many deliveries are going to be made. And I'm
just to
put
be
my
clear-
money on Jeff Bezos. I'm putting my money on
No
Bezos.
matter what.
No matter what.
Well, so here's something I think that people need to remember. You might say, well, I can go to the store and get my... Fine. The drone can deliver your milk and your butter.
Right.
Okay, and your salad. But there's another use here that I think has gone underseen, under-recognized. It's... I live in an apartment building.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a garage. I don't have a workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But I own a hand drill. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I've had that hand drill for 20 years, and I can ask myself, how much time in total have I used that hand drill? Okay, I'm not a builder. I just need it for some emergency things here and there. I might have used it for 15 minutes. I mean, think about it.
Right.
How long does it take to drill a hole? All right, that's seconds.
Right.
20 years I've used it for 15 minutes. So the future of drone deliveries might be all this crap that you own that you hardly ever use. Just let someone else own it.
No.
And I say no.
I
and
don't like
say,
that idea.
Why?
Shh, be quiet, man. That's a good idea. We can do this.
Oh, sorry.
What's your problem? You just giving away all the good stuff, right?
we got to talk to him.
I mean,
So basically I rent a hand drill with the drill bit I need. And it's coming from a place that serviced it. Okay? Like a rental car. They polish that.
He keeps telling him he's giving him
what are
away.
you doing?
I'm just saying. So that
You
way.
know Jeff Bezos listens to this show. You're killing us.
So think about all the things that we would share.
Right.
It's basically
The
shared
shared economy.
economy.
The share economy.
The
yeah.
share economy.
Like
Absolutely.
an old classic barter system.
And I don't need the storage space for it.
Nope.
Because I only and I need it. I'll be here in 15
15
minutes.
minutes, and it's boom.
Boom. And you need a special size drill bit. That's the one it gives you.
Right. Dude.
You're not fumbling over the thing and the chuck
Like
key.
I told you, I hate that idea. It will
Terrible
never, ever
idea.
work.
Terrible.
Never.
So that's a whole other thing other than just bringing today's milk.
Absolutely.
In fact, today's milk, let the refrigerator monitor how much is in all your containers.
And let it get your milk.
Let it get
Let
the milk.
it send for the
Send
drone
for
to
the
bring you
order.
the milk.
Okay, so here we are. Why have we acquiesced all of our responsibilities to AI, to machinery?
No, I think you got it wrong.
Why?
It's not. It's what we have not surrendered ourselves to the drones. We have freed ourselves up to create other things drones and AI would not have thought to do.
So the fridge is now in charge of what I'm going to be getting delivered to my home.
No, it's in charge of you not running out of food that's in the fridge.
I can do that by opening the door,
Or
sticking my
you
head
can type on the fridge, I want eggplant parmesan tonight.
Right.
Oh, you need some
You need
mozzarella.
this,
You
you're
need
out of this,
and
you're
out
out
goes
of
the
that.
thing. You just tell us the end point. Forget the middle points. Who cares?
So
All you care about is when you come home, there's a eggplant parmesan sitting on your table.
So I miss out on the trolley in the ankle experience in the supermarket that I
with
so
the
love.
bad wheel.
That's the
Right.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
I get rammed in.
So you miss out on
I
this.
get broadsided in the ankle, the wobbly wheel. I'm going to miss all of that.
Okay, wait. So 100 years ago, you would have been the person that said, I'm going to miss cleaning up the horse poop. Now that I have
This horseless carriage.
This horseless
This
carriage.
horseless carriage.
I
Like,
miss
I miss.
the shopping for buggy whips.
How long before you get me into Luddite?
Let's go back another 100 years.
Yeah.
You Luddite.
There you go. So, all right, we're exercising it in a positive way. But what if we exercised our mind, and this will happen because we know it will happen. How do I criminalize this little lovely drone, little gaggle?
No, what you can do is
How do
you
we do
can.
that?
I don't want to give people ideas, but
But-
if you know the frequencies over which they're communicating,
That's how
just
it's gonna
hack into
happen.
the
You hack it.
frequencies,
Right.
just hack it, and it brings all the groceries to
So
me,
you- right.
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And I don't have to pay for a damn thing.
I just got grocery
Jeff
jacked
Bezos is
again.
gonna-
Grocery
I
jack.
got grocery jacked again.
Jeff Bezos is going to do that as well
Right.
with Whole Foods.
You got grocery jack.
Exactly.
And what's going to stop people with big? Do you remember when Barry Bonds was going for like 700 home runs?
I do.
People in the back, there's the giant stadium in the back. you can hit the ball a home run into the water,
Right.
because it was on the water's edge.
Okay.
So the people in boats with big nets,
That's right.
waiting for the home run to come. So if you wait for a drone to show up, it's carrying something important. You don't
Right.
know what it is. Just net that sucker out of the sky.
And believe it, that's happening right now. They call them porch pirates. It's people who just walk by places randomly and pick up whatever Amazon package is on a person's.
This is on suburban
in
streets.
suburban streets.
Right.
They just walk up.
That
and,
won't happen in the city.
No.
You get your a whooping.
Yeah,
if
this is
people
true.
see you doing that.
Do I remember a couple of years ago there was this
Porch pirates.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what they call them.
So the sort of quad-copters that they're using as drones, they were using birds of prey to take them out of the air around air.
What do you mean,
airfields.
birds? Oh, you mean actual birds?
Birds
In
of
fact,
prey.
we had this. We were filming Cosmos, and we had a drone at Big Sur, which is this cliff face
course,
to the
yeah.
Pacific
That's
Ocean,
right. Yeah.
the sun and the thing.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. It was the
Beautiful.
shores of the cosmic ocean.
Yeah.
Carl Sagan was filmed there, episode 1, 1980. I'm filmed there, the first and last episode. We have drones doing this, and there was a flock of gulls chasing down the drone. And so
That's
there was a nest.
Yeah.
And so we were under supervision by the California Wildlife
Killjoy Association.
No.
Gotcha.
So what they said was they're doing this because they're protecting their nest.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they think that there's just
They're
some
brilliantly paternal.
evil bird,
Yeah.
right, that's coming over. Plus it's got this
Right.
It's got an
Just
evil
attack
sound.
it for the noise.
For the
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah.
So under their instruction, we flew the drone far away from where the nests were, and that
Gotcha.
minimized this intrusion. So but these are rotary blades. If you're birds of prey, you get your
Yeah,
stuff
you
sliced up.
lose.
You lose, I
You
think.
lose, yeah.
I'm thinking you're going to lose.
Yeah, I got to say.
Unless it's Mothra.
Well, there's always that.
There's always
There's always Mothra.
My favorite was Rodan.
Fridge, send Mothra.
Make sure this delivery comes.
Yeah.
So this is it's like we're witnessing the birth of
an entire industry.
community and technology.
See, the thing is, we've gone because the drones originated back in the beginning of the 20th century, and it's always
Look the way he said that. Way back
in
in
the beginning of the 20th century.
way back.
wait, the 20
and-
you mean the
1917, something like that.
drones?
Yeah, well, pilotless aircraft.
Gary, you're telling me we had radio controlled planes in the 19-teens?
I do believe so. And the good old military got there first.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow. So they're thinking about
So we've been
Pilotless aircraft using radio frequency.
because back then there's some big names back then. We had Tesla,
right,
Tesla the man,
right,
not the car.
Not the car.
Yeah.
right.
Edison was still at it.
Yeah.
There's some fun inventors back then. So maybe it's obvious that would have been the next thing they did because we were trying to control and understand radio frequency energy.
No, and now that I know that we had pilotless planes back then, we probably had Teslas back then and didn't know it.
Oh,
Wooden Teslas.
Wooden Teslas, right?
By the way, I own an actual letter written by Orville Wright to a friend of his who asked him, your new aeroplane, what is the future of that? Could it be used for evil ways? I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
He said, I hope not, but maybe it'll only be controlled by the good guys,
people?
the good guys, and then it'll be okay. So
Yeah.
early in this, people were thinking about the weaponization of these tools.
And I'm glad to see it worked out just how
Just
he
what-
hoped. Just how he hoped.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I own a letter from Orville Redenbach, who said, "Thank you for buying my popcorn. You're such a good customer."
Did you weaponize it? So the thing, we've gone from military to sport, and now it's back to sort of search and rescue. And we now seem to be entering, as well as the military phase, a more positive social phase where you can develop sense in infrastructure, pipelines, agriculture, development of crops, but then search
And
rescue.
disaster, very
Disaster
important.
preparedness.
Yeah.
Post after tornado,
Right?
after they
Forest fires.
Plus, roads might be closed off
Mhm.
because of destructive
Yeah.
forces of nature,
Right.
flooded, and fire. So I
Yes.
appreciate
Mhm.
the hopefulness with which you want to end
Thank you.
the show.
Absolutely.
That yes, you have the militarization of things, but when you pause and take a breath, you can say, how do we improve humanity for
Right.
having done so?
And the answer is drone racing.
Drone racing.
There you go.
And
Full
and-
circle.
And fridges.
All right, Chuck Nice, Gary O'Reilly. Neil deGrasse Tyson here, your personal astrophysicist, bringing you another episode of StarTalk's Sports Edition. Until next time, keep looking up.